Hi, it's Andrew Hunter from Ministry Vitals, and in this video I want to give you a walkthrough of our new desktop application for Church Community Builder called GivingWire. Now, GivingWire essentially does two things, and it does two things very well. Number one is it generates what we call enhanced giving statements that allow the congregant to be able to actually compare period over period givings based on the period. And number two, it allows Canadian churches to easily generate CRA compliant tax receipts for year-end givings. So what I want to do in this video is give you a short demonstration on how the application actually works. Now, as I said, GivingWire is a desktop application, and one of our priorities was to make sure that the application is very secure. So each user of the application installed on the desktop generates a unique password, so only that user can log in to the application on the desktop. Furthermore, it does not store any data on the desktop or within the app. It purges the data after the statements or the receipts have been generated. So let me log in and show you how we go about generating giving statements and tax receipts within GivingWire. So GivingWire integrates with your Church Community Builder database, and there's a number of steps that you'll have to walk through in order to set the application up. And once you've set it up, then it's good to go and you can start generating statements and receipts using GivingWire. So you want to go through and you will, first of all, want to update your profile. Make sure you enter your church name and things like that. Change the password if you wish. You can then integrate with CCB. So you'll enter your unique API credentials, and we have detailed tutorials in the members area that walk you through how to go about creating an API account within your Church Community Builder database. Then you'll want to configure your code of accounts to make sure you choose the ones that you want to show up on your giving statements. And then finally, you'll want to set up your mailing system. So GivingWire will generate either giving statements or tax receipts, and it gives you the option of emailing those to anyone in your database that has an email address. So it actually generates a PDF attachment that goes out to each person that has an email address. So they don't have to log into your CCB database. All they have to do is to click on the attachment and open it or save it to their desktop, and they've got their tax receipt, they've got their giving statement. No extra steps required for them. So if you want to use the optional mailing system, you need to integrate with MailChimp. So MailChimp has a transactional system called Mandrill, and you can set up your Mandrill account and send all of your emails directly from GivingWire out through Mandrill to your congregants. Okay, so you've walked through the 4 steps of setting up GivingWire, and now you're actually ready to use the software. So in this example, I'm going to run a giving statement. So I'm going to click on Giving Statements. And there's a number of steps you'll want to do here. You have what GivingWire will allow you to do is to create a 2-page PDF attachment. So the cover letter is the first page, and it's the letter that comes from your pastor, your senior pastor, letting your congregants know how your money was spent and how healthy the church is and what's going on in the community. And then the second page is the enhanced giving statement. So you'll first want to go through and enter the content for your cover letter and create your cover letter. You can insert background image. So if you've got a logo or you've got a letterhead paper that you want to use, you'll want to upload that through the profile settings, and then that will be your background checked here, include background image. And then you'll also want to include a signature block, and the signature block will go down in this area. You adjust that by changing the margin height here for the signature block. Okay, so it's depending on how much text you have on your cover letter depends on where you have to adjust in order to insert that signature block, and it goes in that area right there. So it takes a little bit of effort to be able to set up your cover letter until it's formatted the way you want it, and then you're ready to go. The next step. So the next step is we want to generate our data. So here we're going to select the period that we want to run this for. So let's say I want to run it for all of 2016. So I'm going to select January 1st, and I'm going to run it to, well, today is actually December 21st, so I'll just run it to today's date. Now, you have the option to select family IDs to run it for specific families, or of course you want to run it for everybody, right? So I'm going to leave it empty, and that's going to generate for the entire database. And then I'll click the generate button. And when I click that button and proceed, the application is going to call the database, and it's going to pull in all the records, and it can compile those records. So depending on how many family IDs you have in your database depends on how long this is going to take. For our example, we're using a database of approximately 9,000 individual IDs, and so it takes roughly half hour to 45 minutes to generate all that data. So I'm going to press the generate button, and I'm going to leave this run, and I'm going to come back and continue on with the video when that's done. All right, so the application has finished generating all the transactions. So you can see now that we have this table down below, and it lists the family ID, the name of the individual and the spouse name, the email address if they have one, and the amount that they've given during the period that we generated the data for. If I want, I can click on any one of these links to look at the PDF of the giving statement itself without the cover letter, just to check the balances to make sure that everything's correct as a spot check. What I want to do, though, is to just download this file, this table, as a CSV file so that I have that on file. So every time I run my reports, I want to generate a backup and have this CSV file in hand. So I would click on that button, and I'd export this table into a CSV file. So now I've got my data, the cover letter's ready. So now what I want to do is, for those that I'm going to email out, I'm going to create the email. So I want to click on the create email button, and you can see I've entered some text here, and I've got some tokens. So the primary is the first name of the individual, and the spouse is the first name of the spouse. If there is no spouse, it only puts Dear Andy, for example. If there's a spouse, it puts Dear Andy and Sarah, and then it goes on for the rest of the text. So that's what's going to be in the email, the body of the email, along with the subject line of the email. And that's ready to go. So the last step is just to issue the statement. So I'm going to click on the submenu Issue Statements. And here you can see now that we have a total of 3,946 giving statements to send out. And of those statements, there's 5,013 that are going to be mailed, for a total of 8,959. So in our system, in this example, of the 8,900 statements that we've generated, only about 4,000 of them have emails. The other 5,000 don't, so they need to be mailed. So what I would do is I click on the Print Now button if I wanted to just print those that have to be mailed. I'd click on the Print Now button. It would generate a PDF file that I would then print to the printer and have a separate statement for every individual. That it would include the cover letter. And then if I wanted to email them, the ones that have an email, I just click on Send Now, and it would send through my Mandrill account to everybody that has an email in the system. Once that's done, I can click on Archives, and I can see a history of all of the statements or tax receipts that we've generated. Now this is a test account, so you can see that we've had a lot of partial sends, but this is an ongoing log that keeps track of any activity from GivingWire that you've done for either giving statements or tax receipts. Now let me give you an example of what the giving statement looks like. So I'm just going to open up one of the giving statements here in PDF format. All right, so here's the layout of our enhanced giving statement, and it essentially contains 3 columns. So we summarize everything, first of all, by code of account. So we don't show every transaction like the standard CCB giving statement does. We total everything because really the congregant wants to know how much they've given and how much they've given to each bucket. They don't want to see every single transaction. They want to make sure that they've given the right amounts to the right buckets. So we've got 3 columns. We've got the current period, so this is where we generate the data from January through to December, and we compare that to the same period last year, so we can see if we're on track, if we're over or under, based on what we've given. And then the third column is the total for the previous year, so we can see if we're on track to hit that same amount that we gave in the previous year. So this is a great metrics for the congregant to be able to know where they're at compared to previous givings. Now, the tax receipts works much the same way. If we click on tax receipts, the difference here is that we actually generate 1 page instead of 2. The tax receipt itself is in the top third of the page, and then the cover letter is on the bottom 2/3 of the page. So here again, we create our receipt letter. So this is what the text that goes on the bottom 2/3 of the page. And then we go ahead and follow the same format as giving statements. We generate our data for the period. So we would run this for the entire year. And the difference here is that we generate tax receipts for individuals, not families. So we generate a tax receipt for each individual. So we generate all the data, and then we would create our email, same way as we did for the giving statements, and then we would issue the tax receipts, and again, the same way. So we would see the number that are ready for email, the number that have to be mailed, and the total number of receipts. So generating CRA compliant tax receipts for Canadian churches will probably take you an hour to 2 hours, depending on how much effort you put into your cover letter to go along with the tax receipt. So it's a very easy process to pull the data, format it the way you want it, and then issue them to your congregants. So that's GivingWire, our new desktop application. It's built specifically for Church Community Builder users. We're very excited to release this application. We're going to find that many of the Canadian churches are going to love this application simply for the amount of time it's going to save them for generating tax receipts for year end. But no matter where you're at, our enhanced giving statements are going to add value to your congregants, and they're going to provide an added incentive to contribute more in order to hit that target. If they don't see the target, they don't know what the target is. So it's a great visual indicator of how much they've given and how much more they want to give in order to hit a certain target. To learn more about GivingWire, go to www.ministryvitals.com.